thank you so much for being here today. It's great to see so many people here. We have got 25 minutes, is that right, Jasper? And so we probably won't have time for questions at the end, but I've always thought whenever I've sat that side of the microphone, I've always looked to go back to work the following day, or Monday in this case, with something tangible that I can either use in my day job or share with my colleagues. So that's the ambition for this panel here today. And obviously with the topic of sustainability, it is so important and such a hot topic at the moment. The onus is on everybody really to be doing something. And we had a fascinating day on Wednesday, and I think the big takeout that was coming through there, that everybody who's working within organisations was saying, it's so important that trickle down from the top. James, I mean, to start with you, obviously World Rugby, you're the top. How are you embracing sustainability and ensuring that it trickles down to the various unions beneath you?
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for that. And good morning to everybody. So World Rugby, we launched our environmental sustainability plan back in January 2022. This was not so much in response to what's going around, but for anyone who was in Japan in 2019 and saw the impact that one of the largest, latest typhoons in the season, Typhoon Hagibis, that hit Japan, and the impact that had on our tournament, but more so for the communities in Japan that were affected by it, was a real wake-up call for rugby. A lot of times you had been looking at sport and thinking, well, there's forest fires and there's smog or there's flooding happening. And you start to see that more and more. For those of you who are involved in community sport and kids sport, my own son, he's playing in our local rugby club in Dublin, where I'm from. And Dublin, Ireland is blessed with a fair amount of rainfall from time to time, but there's been a lot more of it. And these aren't sort of odd weather events. This is evidence of climate change. The impact of that, we can really feel it now. We've seen congestion challenges for the kids' fixtures, where kids are asked to be playing more and more games in a more condensed period of time. And the same way that would replicate at the elite end of the sport, when calendar congestion, and then you get into player welfare matters, broadcasting challenges, just finding enough time in an already very busy calendar. So we launched our sustainability plan. We're a signatory to the UN Sport for Climate Action Framework, which we signed in 2019. Prior to that, we joined up to the IOC and UN Environment's Clean Seas Programme to start addressing plastic waste and looking at ways to eradicate that and design it out of our operations. And then in January of last year, we joined the IUCN Sport for Nature Framework. So we've been World Rugby might have used to have this role of being a regulator, but we're moving from that inspiration, from that role from regulation to inspiration now, and our members expect it, and we need to lead by example and support them in the way that they need to make it real on the ground for them.
And Robbie, you're obviously part of a union that sits at the next layer. How does that trickle down effect then come to you guys?
Well, I think it's critical. I mean, the experience that we've had with the efforts that we've made over the years with things like the Green Sevens, which, to be honest, we haven't saved the planet by any stretch of the imagination, but at least we've tried to do something and take some steps. But the conclusion I've come to is that this, I think, at this stage has got to be driven and led by legislation and regulation, with a smattering of inspiration. But for us, World Rugby, they have got the resources. Jaime tells us what to do. He does the research. He's part of all of this fantastic international network of sports bodies. So they can share best practice with us and can encourage us, or in certain situations insist on actions that we have to take. And I think that is very important, and at the same time, the government. So the government, I mean, we talked a lot on Wednesday at the Sport and Sustainability Summit about carrot and sticks. Again, the government has got very, very important sticks and carrots. when it comes to, for example, funding. So we're an M-Mark event. That's an important source of funding for us. The government has the ability with that to impose certain requirements. And this obviously, hopefully going forward, will be more around sustainability to ensure that when we put on major events, mega events, like school in Hong Kong, that sustainability is high up the list of priorities and is up there on the agenda.
Now, with any initiative within an organisation, you get the people who are engaged and impassioned. How do you get that to trickle through the organisation, whether it's up, down or sideways? Because that's always a challenge.
Well, from my perspective, again, it's knowing how to relate what your role is. I mean, it's a team effort. Without being cliched about it, every sector of society has a role and an obligation. Governments have signed up to international agreements, you know, to keep the global temperature increases, you know, within this 1.5 to 2 degree scenario. And even at that, there's a lot of not so much great things coming down the track that are already baked in. You know, even with the impact of COVID, you could see when people, you know, were reducing travel, and thankfully some of that legacy is helped through, you know, online meetings and people really questioning the need to hop on the plane. What we're trying not to do, though, is to make sure we don't stop doing business. I mean, we're an international organisation. We travel internationally. We deliver large mega events globally. But we need to apply a sustainability lens to all of that, and not just the environmental. And the economics sometimes tends to look after itself. It might probably get more focus, but the social side of it as well. But making everyone aware of what their role is, everyone has something that they can do within their own little sphere of influence or control. And speaking the right language to the right people as well. If people are motivated by data or by numbers, it's being able to show them that, you know, sustainability, it'll only cost you money if it's done wrong. If you actually look at where the opportunities are for cost savings, for efficiencies, maybe spending that extra 5 or 10% for something that will actually have multiple use instead of paying it cheaper and then throwing it out at the end of it. So that's sort of designing waste. And you know, we've spoken to a range of other organisations and stakeholders. And when we developed our own plan, we went to our stakeholders as well and asked them, what is it you want from us? What do you expect us to do? And what's your role in this as well? So I think there's, you know, just judging by the number of people here in the room, there are a lot of willing people involved in this. And it's understanding where your impacts are and where the greatest opportunity for change and to address those impacts. And sport has a lot of very positive impacts as well, and it's using those and amplifying those as well.
I think for me, role models, absolutely critical. And Jaime is certainly a role model. You know, when we reached out and said, we're going to do a sport and sustainability summit, would you come along? To be honest, he hummed and hawed a bit, and then I said, and you'll have the opportunity to speak at Jasper's Sports Matters. He said, I'm there. But, you know, having somebody who's not just sitting in a ivory tower in Dublin, but is always so accessible, and for something like this, we'll get on the plane and we'll come here to show you support. Jamie's a role model. It helps to keep the names the same. Jaime Farndale, who is here as well, is another incredible role model. Jaime is a GB professional sevens rugby player, but he has become probably the most passionate athlete spokesperson, certainly in the world of rugby, about the issue of sustainability. He's just finishing his sustainability masters at the second best university in the UK, Cambridge. But Jaime, again, you know, when we said we're doing this, he was the second person behind this Jaime on the plane and coming out here. And I think that these voices, and athletes' voices in particular, so important. The influence that athletes have, particularly with the young people, is just cannot be overestimated. So role models like these two, you don't have to be called Jaime, it helps, but hugely important.
Well, I was going to say, with the stakeholders, a great phrase that came out of Wednesday was, change happens because of the people who ask for it. And with all the stakeholders you've got athletes, sponsors, fans, Where are you finding the loudest voices are coming from, and what is it they're asking for?
Well, I was just going to say I think one of the things that came out is that some of the markets are quite different. So we had some speakers there who are involved with things like the Commonwealth Games, for example, in Birmingham, sustainability manager Simon, and he's now working with Formula One. And so I think in some markets it's very much customer driven. You know, there's an expectation that if these events, these organisations, these sports bodies are not taking sustainability seriously, then the fans are going to turn their backs on them. I'm not sure that's the case yet in Hong Kong. When you look at the ongoing challenges with just introducing the waste charging scheme here, I don't think the public in Hong Kong are necessarily the driving factor. So I think one of the things that we sort of came to the conclusion on Wednesday was that maybe in our market, actually the sports industry can be more of a catalyst. So perhaps we need to be more of a driver to take the public with us, because I don't think in the Hong Kong market it's the public that's going to push this agenda in the short term.
Yeah, look, I think looking at where those opportunities lie as well. We've had commercial partners who are asking us, what is it that you are doing as an organisation? They want to have partnerships. They want to partner with purpose as well. It's not the days of spending their marketing budgets just to have their name up. It isn't good enough for them anymore, and understandably and rightly so. They're helping us to question ourselves. Being part of international frameworks, it's not just sign your name on the dotted line and get to use the logo. We have to report. So that points the finger of scrutiny at us. We self-examine, and then we have these external bodies are looking at what we're doing. So again, that what gets measured gets done approach to it as well. Certainly the fans as well. We're seeing the younger fans and those that we want to reach out to, and not just the fans today, but those who we want to come to our tournaments in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They're all very passionate about this. The market research has shown that people will make sustainable choices. You have to facilitate it for most of them, but a lot of them will go and seek it out. So when you're speaking to suppliers, you mentioned about me humming and hawing about coming over here. I wouldn't hop on a plane just for the sake of it. I do love to travel, but it does have an impact. At World Rugby, about 90% of our emissions, if not more, are coming from travel. So it's a necessary evil. But how we go about making those travel choices and accommodating people, for meetings online, notwithstanding the fact those sort of interpersonal, face-to-face connections as well. But everyone, the players are asking us, so Jaime as well, a great advocate for it. David Pocock in Australia, another one, Alina Olsen from the USA Women's Sevens team. So we have to respond. There's a duty on us. As Robbie mentioned, people look to us for leadership. We need to walk the walk and talk the talk.
And with sustainability, often, with your job title, you've got sustainability, you've got diversity, you've got inclusion. They often get merged together under the umbrella term sustainability. But we can't boil the ocean. Where do you recommend, and particularly in smaller organisations where there's a human resource consideration as well, where on earth do you start?
Sustainability is a balancing act, and apologies for those who might have heard me use this analogy earlier in the week. It's been compared to a three-legged stool. You have the economic leg, the environmental leg, and the social leg. You won't always get them in perfect harmony, but that's what we should try to be looking for, because if you're trying to be more sustainable, it means that you're being unsustainable. So it's how you go about addressing those. There's a lot that needs to be done, but as you say, boiling the ocean, and again, in a climate change analogy, sometimes if we boil the ocean a little bit, the water cycle will get more rain. But you need to look at where you can make the greatest impact, and who your stakeholders are. What inspires them? Why do people want your product or your service, or come to your tournament, or play your sport? You can't be everything to all, otherwise you'll spread yourself too thin. For anyone who's thinking about, if they haven't already begun this journey, I would certainly encourage you to hop on the electric-powered bus, but to look at where you're going to have the most impact, who your partners are, how can they support you in this journey. There's always a sense that people are doing it alone, and it's like, this is such a huge task, it's pointless. But it's absolutely not pointless. I mean, if we want to have future editions of the Sevens, we aren't going to have to be worried about when we can host them because of an increasing number of climate events. So this is about safeguarding not just our sport, but our future.
I think to pick up on the analogy of the journey, I think take the first step. That's the most important thing. And don't be put off by the fact that you're not going to change the world or save the planet overnight. Just take the first step. When we first started the Green Sevens campaign, our PR media company said to me, "You are mental." That nobody up to this point has ever asked how many single-use plastic cups are thrown away at the Sevens. Why are you raising this? Why are you putting this on the agenda? Because all that's going to happen is we're going to get a kicking. And to be fair, we have, but you've got to have the courage to stick your head over the parapet and take that first step. And now, to be fair, it's a long story. We've got a warehouse full of reusable cups now. But anyway, it was the right thing to do, and we're using reusable cups, and we're making those reusable cups available for other events in Hong Kong. So, one small thing, but it's taking that first step.
One of the things that often can be quite intimidating, and social media can be a core element of this, is you try to do one thing right, and then everybody notices the dozen things you may have not yet got round to yet or haven't prioritised. How do you balance getting things right in what can be a really awkward naysayer culture, or you've got the PR saying, avoid this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a bugbear, I must admit. I felt that particularly quite a lot of the green pressure groups weren't supportive, and that actually they were more interested in telling us all the things that we still weren't doing well, rather than actually giving us the credit for the fact that we tried to do something. And I found that a bit disappointing, to be honest. But then we did, so we worked together with the group. Initially, we worked with BEC, Business Environment Council, then we worked with the Purpose Business, and they kind of helped us to actually sit down with all of the different green groups. And at least we had the opportunity to sort of explain to them and say, we can't do everything overnight, but please be patient with us and bear with us, and we're trying to do the right thing, so work with us. And, I think they did appreciate that. But, yeah, I think, as I say, once you get on that journey, there's going to be highs and lows, and people will be looking for opportunities sometimes to embarrass you or humiliate you. But you've just got to have the courage of your conviction. You've just got to say, okay, sure, we're not getting that right, but we're working on it, and we will get it right in time, but we're also doing more stuff better now than we were before.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that whole sort of fail better approach, you need to be honest, you need to be upfront, you need to be authentic. Don't set yourself up for failure either. Don't say, we're going to be this fantastic, great thing that actually you can't deliver, and no one can deliver. But if you can say, we know where our impacts are, and this is what we're going to try and do to address them. These are the time frames we're looking at, and there will be pitfalls. There always are. But again, having those conversations, being open and honest, explaining why you're doing it as well. And there's a huge amount, not just of reputational risk, but of financial risk involved in all this as well. We talked about sort of the cancellation insurance for events, loss of broadcasting rights if games can't go ahead. Spectator and player welfare. We've seen sporting events when the barometer goes up, and athletes are really suffering. So are the spectators. People won't want to come to your events as well. So, understanding, going back to where those impacts are, where you can start to address them. And as Robbie mentioned earlier, it's taking that first journey, because once you start, even with a couple of those small wins at the beginning, it really helps inspire and invigorate and build that momentum to help you take another step, and then you want to do it more and you want to be bigger. So I think that progression is something that comes once you've taken that first step.
Absolutely. And I'm conscious of time, so to close, as we say, very easy to knock people not doing the right thing. However, it's great to see that there are lots and lots of organisations and venues in sport that are. Which are the initiatives that you've seen from anywhere in sport, of any organisation or venue of any size, that you thought, damn, that's good?
Well, I was just speaking to Jaime Farndale about this earlier. Sale GP have their Impact League, so the teams are competing against each other, on the water to win the races, but they're also competing in this other Impact League where they're looking at the social, the economic, the environmental side of it. They have points for participation. They have points if they reduce out waste. They have targets that if they don't generate X amount of waste, then they get extra points and whatnot. Something similar in the UK in the Premier League, where Sports Positive put together a league table based on footprints of the football clubs, and that really helps inspire action as well. I mean, World Rugby, we're a little bit different because we don't have week-on-week events. We have a fan base that builds up and then peaks and then drops again. But before the next tournament, we're looking at ways we can keep people more engaged. But there's definitely opportunity there in the tournament, like the Sevens, to look at those kind of league tables between venues, between hosts, between players, so that you add that extra competitive element to it as well.
Yeah, I like and you'll have to remind me the name. Actually, they spoke at the summit on Wednesday, the football one, about the competition.
This is Sports Positive.
Yeah, but there was the name. What was it? Anyway, what I like about it is the fact that they're making it easy for people, for the fans, to do simple things and encourage them to then change behaviour. So, they log in as like a Liverpool supporter, and then if they, for example, this week's challenge is have a vegan meal, and if they do that and then they upload a photograph, then they get a point. And so it's stuff that we can all do, but it's that kind of that competitive, that clan thing. You want to do it for your football club or your rugby club or whatever like that. I think it's a very, very clever way of cunningly incentivizing people to do the right thing. And then the hope is obviously that once they've gone and they've had their Stella McCartney vegan burgers, they go, that's fantastic. I don't know why I haven't been eating this every week. So through that initial incentivization, then perhaps we slowly start to change people's habits.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've finished to the minute. Jaime, Robbie, thank you both so much. It's been inspirational hearing you the last couple of days, and hopefully we've given you all some food for thought. Both gentlemen are around until lunchtime?
For about 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Jamie's around until lunchtime. Yeah. So, yeah, feel free to nab him, ask him any questions, connect on LinkedIn. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you both so much.